Um, these sutras were meant to be heard. They start with "Thus I have heard." And so by really listening to an audiobook, you're actually joining the lineage of this way that these actual spiritual texts were transmitted generation by generation. The Dharma was actually an oral tradition when it started, and later written down to then be passed on. But you look at all the Buddhist sutras, it begins, "Thus I have heard." It's not "Thus I have read." And there's a reason for that. And there's a power in listening that just reading words doesn't kind of capture, because there's the actual intonation, there's the being drawn into like a good story that you don't get in sometimes just reading a text. I see this as actually a very important, it could be when people look back into the Dharma in the West, that people go, well, when this Lotus Sutra was translated into real English in a cultivation framework, this was the kind of mark when the Mahayana really put down deeper roots in America, because this sound actually now exists, you know? So by listening to the audiobook, you have a chance to really immerse yourself in the realm of the Lotus Sutra. If you look at the Buddhist tradition itself, it was actually meant to be heard and not read. And you can see that in the first chapter, it begins, "Thus I have heard." And so by listening to the audiobook, in a very real way, you're actually connecting yourself to the lineage of this text. Because if you imagine all the great masters throughout the centuries have heard this text, and it's coming down generation by generation to us now. But we benefit now that we don't have to go to the foot of a teacher to be able to listen to the text. We actually can listen to this text with a very good translation, with a group of people who really, you could say, love the text, sharing it through an audiobook. That's, I think, one of the real benefits of listening to it, is you actually get brought into this world. But reading it, of course, is wonderful too. I wouldn't discourage that by any means. Well, for a Buddhist practitioner, I think this text is a very important one to be exposed to. Because within this tradition, this is the text where the Buddha shares his deeper purpose for teaching, like why he's actually here. So I can emphasize what's important about the Lotus Sutra, but I think there's another one, why this translation is important. Because I think that's actually what makes it unique, because there's quite a few translations of the Lotus Sutra that are out there. But I think this one actually is accurate, engaging, and geared for practice. And then but this one has a combination of many translators coming together through a multitude of primary, different stages, from primary translation to a review, to a careful polishing, to an actual certification or a kind of careful reflection on the principles that are within the text to make sure that they're actually therapeutic and accurate. And so to me, that's actually a very wonderful combination, where you bring in a kind of accuracy, not just to the literal meaning of the text, but the dynamic quality of the text with a kind of therapeutic engagement. Say, for me, I found the Lotus Sutra to be really a life-changing text because I started out the practice with this wish to kind of get free of suffering, both for myself and those around me. Seeing the stress of modern society, the sense of alienation and anxiety, and oftentimes broken families. And the Dharma to me was like medicine to find another way to be in this world. And so I really applied myself in why being a Buddhist monk was because I was really inspired by the spiritual path as a way out of suffering. But it wasn't until I really read the Lotus Sutra that I discovered another world within the spiritual, how to say this way, I deeply felt a shift in my being having read the story of the prodigal son in the Lotus Sutra, because I could identify with the prodigal son in many ways, of feeling lost, not sure of myself, and just wanting to get by. Just doing the little bit I could to be okay, to help out a little bit.